Hello, it's Rebecca from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today I'm sharing a layout for Papermaze. Therefore this video does class as an advertisement. So this month I'm working with the Daydream Collection by Cocoa Vanilla Studio, and for this layout I'm using this gorgeous rainbow patterned paper which is called Over the Rainbow. And on one side you've got this lovely detailed rainbow, and on the other side it's like a dark brown wood grain effect. But we're going with the rainbow for this layout. As you can see here on the rainbow, each of the different coloured bands has got added detail to it. So you've got the light blue has got a wavy line, the yellow section has got white specks on it, almost like raindrops. The lighter pink colour has 2 rows of dots, and the darker peachy pink colour has a row of hearts going around it. So it's already got loads of detail on it, but I decided I wanted to add a little bit more. So even though the background for this paper is white, I've decided I'm going to fussy cut each strip out and distress the edges and then machine stitch around them and then reapply it to a white background. It took me a while to decide what I wanted to do with these little navy hearts. I wanted to keep them on my layout, but because I planned to distress the edges and machine stitch, I didn't want the stitching going through the hearts. So I've fussy cut them out before distressing the edges, and then I'll reapply them at the end with some foam pads. As I was distressing the edges, the little hearts in the outer edge of the rainbow, these ones here, were really screaming at me to do something with them. And I couldn't decide if I wanted to be brave and attempt to machine stitch around them, or hand stitch around them, or cut them out. And I decided I wasn't brave enough for the machine stitching, no way. So I went with fussy cutting. So my plan is to cut them all out, and then I'll reapply them on foam pads at the end, just to add more dimension and height to the layout. So I just use a cutting mat and a craft knife and just go around each one. I'm numbering them on the back to make sure they go back in the same place. Doesn't matter, they're pretty much the same size anyway, but just in case I got them muddled up, I've just numbered them. And now once I've distressed all the edges, I get my sewing machine out and I just do a straight running stitch in white thread around the inner edge and the outer edge of each of the rainbow strips. This is probably the first layout I've done where I've used my sewing machine, and it's worked first time with no hiccups, no chewing up my layout, no thread tangles, and I think I finally figured it out. If I don't blink and I don't breathe while I'm sewing, it seems to work. I think in truth it's just the zigzag stitching my machine has an issue with. It just seems to put the good stitch on the back and the bad stitch on the front. But then if I decide to swap the layout over and stitch it backwards, it does it the right way round, and so then I end up with the bad stitching on the front. So I think I just need to avoid zigzag stitching with my machine on layouts. So as you can see, I've finished my stitching. I've done the inner and outer edge of each band, and I've applied double-sided adhesive foam tape around the edge of the rainbow strips, and the outer one I've just used little foam pads because I didn't want the double-sided tape to show through the hearts that I've cut out. And I'm just going to reapply each coloured strip back to a piece of white 12x12 cardstock. You'll notice I left one side of the rainbow there without any tape on. That's purely because that's where my photo is going to sit. I did initially have tape on it and then realised what I'd done, so I had to rip it back off. It's just so that my photo isn't too raised off the page, so those bits behind the photo will be flat and the photo itself will be raised up onto craft foam. I'm just sticking the bottom bits down there just so that they don't come loose when I put the page in my album. And then with the little navy hearts and the pink hearts from that top strip, I'm applying them up onto 2 layers of foam pads just so they sit slightly higher than the rainbow, and because I've raised those up already once. So I've done 2 layers behind those, and that just adds a lot more dimension to the layout. and it really makes them stand out, and in certain light it just casts a really nice shadow over the page, and it just adds more interest, and I really like the effect it gives. So I'm just going to go around applying 2 layers of foam to each of the pink hearts, and again I leave a section on the right hand side down the bottom without the hearts in, just purely because my photo is going to sit there. I think I'll come back in and fill in the ones that do show, but the majority of them behind the photo are left empty. So you'll see in a minute the photo I'm using. It's a black and white photo of my little boy. I've printed it 4 inches by 4 inches, and it's of him on the beach in the Isle of Wight, and I think it was taken back in 2018, this one actually, so it's a couple of years old now. I've gone with the black and white photo because I found a lot of my photos either had a lot of green in. Now this collection doesn't really have a lot of green, and my little boy is very outdoorsy, so a lot of our photos have trees or grass in. This one was a beach one, but the colours again didn't really go with the collection, so no worries, I've just printed it black and white, and as you know, black and white goes with anything, so it works much better. I was much happier with it in black and white. So once I'd stuck down all of the rainbow bands, I just went round with my fingernails and just distressed the edges a bit more. I'm a bit go big or go home when it comes to distressing. If it's going to be distressed, I want it to be really distressed, and if it rips while I'm doing it, that's all good, it's fine by me. Adds more extra dimension and texture to the page. So I've just gone around and distressed them further, and then I'm backing my photo. I've used white cardstock first, and then I've gone in with that lovely yellow paper, and I also brought in that navy one because there wasn't a lot of navy in the rainbow other than those little hearts. They were kind of standing out, so I wanted to bring some more of that darker blue in just to balance out the layout a bit more. So I'm just going to add double-sided tape behind each layer and stick those down. I'm not going to centre my photo exactly straight on these layers. I don't mind if it's a bit wonky and off shape. I just trim a bit of excess off and distress again. And then I'll pop a layer of craft foam behind my photo just to pop it up a bit. And here I'm just figuring out how many of those hearts I actually need to leave blank behind the photo. You'll have to excuse the state of my fingers in this video. I have pink fingers, and for once it's not from mixed media scrapbooking. I dyed my hair this morning and hadn't noticed there was some holes in my gloves, so I've now got pink hair, pink fingers and a pink bathroom. So I've got a lot of clearing up to do after this, but that is why my fingers are pink. So I've stuck my photo down and I'm now moving on to embellishing. There is a gorgeous floral patterned paper in this collection. I normally shy away from florals because my little boy is very boyish. We love dirt, we love muddy puddles, we love construction vehicles, cars, trains. He's really not a flowery child. So I know a lot of people say you can use florals on boy layouts, and you can, there's nothing wrong with that at all, but just for me, I just can't make it work, and every time I do it, I never like it. But for some reason, the floral patterned paper in this collection I just love, and I'm using it and it's not bothering me, I'm really enjoying it. So I've fussy cut some florals and put them either side of my photo. And then I've just made a couple of clusters using some rainbows. They are fussy cut from the Up in the Clouds patterned paper. There's loads of rainbows on that paper and they're gorgeous. So I've cut a few of them and distressed the edges. And then there's another patterned paper with these butterflies or moths, I'm not sure what they're supposed to be. That's called All A Flutter. And I've just cut some of those out just to spread the colour around the layout a bit better. So I'll put the blue one up at the top where there isn't currently any blue, and the yellow one to the side, and the pink one over on the yellow strip, just to balance the colours out across the page a bit better. I really don't like putting butterflies or moths flat on layouts, so I always feel the need to distress their wings and curl them up a bit. And once I stick them down, I usually add some foam pads under the wings just so that they don't stay flat. I don't know why, I really don't like putting butterflies flat on my layouts. So I've stuck everything else down off camera, no sense in making you watch all of that. So I've used just PVA tacky glue, and on the edges of the florals I've gone round and added some foam pads just so that lifts them off the page a bit and adds dimension. So now I'm coming in with my title. I've called this layout Be a Rainbow in Somebody Else's Storm, and that was inspired by the cut apart sheet in this collection. There's a cut apart that says Be a Rainbow in Somebody Else's Cloud. So I've used that saying but changed cloud to storm as it worked a bit better for me. And I've used a collection of thickers from my stash. So the white foam ones are American Craft thickers called Happy Life. And then for the word rainbow, I wanted that to stand out, so I've used some bigger thickers. They are called Bonjour and they're from Dear Lizzie. And then you'll see in a minute, as I get down to the word storm, I've used some Freckled Fawn puffy alphas from my stash. It took me a while to decide if I wanted to use the word somebody or someone. I couldn't decide, so I took a couple of minutes and figured out both, and then came back in and I decided to go with somebody. So it's Be a Rainbow in Somebody Else's Storm. And I'm just arranging my title so that it follows the curve of the rainbow. I struggled on the yellow one because it's quite a narrow curve, so I fiddle with them for a little bit, and the word rainbow keeps getting stuck to my hand, so in a minute I'll have to glue those down. But once I'm happy with my placement, I move on to the word storm. And as I was getting those off the sheet, I realised I had all the letters in lowercase apart from the R. There was only a capital R in the collection. So I picked out an H, which was in a really cursive font, and I've managed to, you can just see it on my hand there, I managed to trim it down to make a lowercase R, which is a great thing to do. If you haven't got a letter, you can always trim something else and piece some others together, and usually you can make the letter you're looking for. So here you go, there's my R, and if I hadn't told you, I hope you wouldn't have even guessed that it used to be a cursive H. So there's my title all in place now. I had, I think it was 3 of those pink hearts left where I hadn't filled them back in underneath my photo. So I just distressed the edges of those and I've just placed them around my photos, just adding to the clusters there. I thought about going back in and distressing the other hearts on the rainbow, but I was a bit worried then that they wouldn't fit back in the holes as well and it would look a bit off, so I've left them as they are. I toyed with the idea of adding a flare to the layout. There's one in the collection that's got a rainbow in that matches the ones on the Up in the Clouds paper. And I tried it in a couple of places but couldn't make it work for me, so I've taken it back off. And then from the ephemera pack I've added a strip banner along the bottom of my photo that says The Good Life, and a little tab to the left of my photo that says So Lovely. And there's a little banner piece with some stripes on, and I've put in the top right corner because that was looking a bit bare to me. And I've used the yellow patterned paper in the collection just to make another banner, and I'll layer them up. And I'm just trying to figure out a little cluster for the top there. I tried to make the flare work at the top as well, but it just wasn't working for me. So sorry flare, but not this time, maybe on the next layout. So I just go around and distress the edges of everything just so that it matches up with the rest of the layout. And I stick one down with double-sided tape, and then the smaller one I raise up on foam. And I'm going to add a rainbow and a heart from the ephemera pack. And I forgot to distress these, and it was only when I was taking photos after that I realised. So once I finished filming, they do come back off and get distressed. There we go, rainbow has fallen off again, so that will get glued down. And I also realised when I turned my layout over that I hadn't glued down the Good Life banner or the So Lovely tab. Oh, you can see my little boys coming in there and stealing all my foam pads. And that's me done. So there's some close-ups here for you to see at the end. Thank you very much for joining me today. Please remember to like and subscribe, and if you head over to the Papermaze blog, there's a blog to go with this layout, and there's some more close-ups on there too. And please remember to head over to Papermaze and check out the collection whilst it's still in stock.